Welcome to the afternoon of Maritime UK Careers Fair. Here to kickstart the afternoon of speakers, we have a very special guest from Warsash Maritime School. This school is the only maritime training centre of its kind in the world, and here to delve into that and tell you why, we have Giuseppe Saeva, Head of Cadet Education. So over to you, Giuseppe. Thank you.
Hello, thank you very much for that, and I'll just share my screen. Maybe 1 second. So can you see that, Rosie?
Looks all good to me, yep.
Excellent. So hello everyone, and thank you for tuning in, and it's good to talk to you. And I'm going to spend half an hour, and I'm going to talk about a couple of things. I want to talk to you about what is the Merchant Navy, and some key jobs that are available in the industry, how you get into it, and then what we as a maritime school can do to help you start your career and progress through your career. But before I do that, I just want to ask you a few questions. So I'm sure many of you now are currently thinking about career options and university, and I just want to ask a few questions I want you to think about. So how would you like to be paid whilst you're studying? How would you like to have a job at the end of your training and your 3 years of sort of career and college? How would you like to earn a good salary by the time you're only in your early 20s? How'd you like a career where you travel the world and see many places you probably would never normally see? Enjoy long spells of leave and being paid to be at home? And how would you like to be a captain of your ship or a chief engineer by the time you're age 30? So those are some of the exciting questions I want you to think about over the next half an hour as I go through the following. So what is the Merchant Navy? It's probably a term you may have heard, but no one actually really knows what it means. If you want to say it, really, it's all ships that don't have guns on, okay? The Merchant Navy is all the vessels that travel the world, moving goods and people around the world, or other vessels that are there to support the functions of those industries. There are two kind of jobs or functions at sea. The first one is what we call a deck officer. And a deck officer's role essentially is to guide the ship from A to B. Okay, so navigate the ship safely through all weathers, all conditions, all environments from A to B, safely with the crew, transporting people or cargo around the world. And these are some of the functions that you'll be responsible for. So as I said, the navigation, monitoring of the weather, your ship systems, of course, all your crew, the loading and discharge of your cargo, and health and safety. So those are kind of some of your key roles. The other important jobs on the ships are the engineers. And the two types of engineers, the mechanical and the electronic. And as you can see, they have lots and lots of responsibilities. Anything from ensuring the propulsion of the ship is still functioning, but all the electronic and the navigation equipment on board, they're responsible to make sure those are working properly. Because when you're at sea, you can't just stop off at Tesco's and sort of top up with additional bits of equipment. If there's a fire in the ship, you can't call the fire brigade. You've got to do it yourself. So these are very important jobs at sea that you've got to manage and do yourself. So you can see some very highly trained people have lots and lots of different functions. So as I said, what is a Merchant Navy? Well, lots of different ships that you could choose to work on. So here we've got gas carriers and oil carriers. As you'll find as you study geography around the world, you'll realize that all the raw materials, places where people actually want to use them. So all these materials have to be transported around the world, and a lot of it is traveled by, moved by ships. Another type of vessels, so dry bulk vessels. So the one on the left, top left there, that could be carrying anything from iron ore and coal to animal feed, grain, coffee, anything like that. And the bottom right hand corner, car carriers. So they move hundreds and hundreds of cars around the world from the place of manufacture to the place where people want to buy them. Cruise ships. Many of you may have been on a cruise already. This is part of the Merchant Navy. And although you may have been on a cruise ship and seen all the fun side of the ship, they still need navigators and engineers to move the ship around safely. What we call ro-ro ferries. So again, many of you may have been on these when you may have gone across the Channel or across the Irish Sea. These are a combination of passenger vessels and car and cargo. Big container ships. We always say in our industry about 90% of goods are moved around the world by sea, and these ships carry many of them. Inside these containers, maybe televisions, cars, fruit and veg, furniture, who knows? But these are what we call the workhorses of industry, moving goods around the world. Royal Fleet Auxiliary, that's considered part of the Merchant Navy, and this is the kind of the support industry to the Royal Navy itself. So if you're interested in being part of that world, then you can look at joining the Royal Fleet Auxiliary. And there's lots of smaller vessels, what are called offshore vessels, support vessels. These may be ships that go to sea to explore for new oil and gas fields. There may be vessels that go and lay cables for telecommunications or pipes. Lots of small vessels that have a very important part to play in the world's economy and industry. And these are, fun ships to be on if you want to be working on a smaller ship. And of course, there's the glamorous side of the industry, the super yachts. Super yachts now are getting so big that all crew on board have to be trained as though they were working on one of the bigger ships I've just shown you. So now there's many people getting trained to work on super yachts. So those are a range of vessels that you may be interested in. And as I said, and they all take those navigation officers I was talking about and the engineers. If that excites you, then I guess the next question is, how do you get started? So you would start off by enrolling on what we call a cadetship or a UK cadet program. In the UK, the UK recruits around 800 cadets every year, and they go to a number of different colleges around the UK. And we at Warsash Maritime School take roughly 180 or 200 cadets every year. All training officers, as we call them, must follow either a foundation degree route, high national diploma, or an HNC. And how they work is it's a 3-year program. So very much like any other degree program, they run for 3 years. They're split into what we call 5 phases. First phase is you come to us and you do an academic phase, and you start learning the basics of either engineering or navigation before you then go to your first sea phase. And that can be a few months where you start learning the job at sea. You then come back for phase 3 to the college, where you do more of the academic learning, and you start embedding more of the knowledge you have learned in the previous 2 phases. You then leave again and go to what's the longer sea phase, phase 4, which can be up to roughly 10 months, before you come back for phase 5 and your final phase, where it's the academic last academic phase and your professional qualifications. And on completion of that, you leave with what's called a certificate of competency, which is almost like a license to allow you to go to sea and work as a fully employed officer. Cadets must be sponsored by a shipping company, and they manage your training and organize your sea phases. And that's important because, as I said, they organize your sea phases, but they will also pay you a wage while you're learning, and they will manage you. And about that shortly. Something that is a bit more practical, but I would suggest you may want to think about, is the cost of studying in your higher education. So an average student debt for an undergraduate student, so that is a student who takes what we call a traditional degree route, will probably leave university with a debt of around £40,000 to £50,000 after they've taken out loans and pay for their fees. That's a substantial amount of money to pay back. The average debt of a cadet can be around nothing to about £4,000, and that's just an average. Why do I say that? Because, as I said, the sponsoring shipping company will pay your wage and pay your expenses while you study. So if you're careful with your money, then you can finish your training, go to a career carrying no debt. Also interesting to think about is when you leave the college, a normal, like I said, undergraduate student would probably enter their industries with an average salary of around £21,000 to £22,000. A cadet will start off the industry somewhere in the region of £30,000 to £35,000 as a starting salary. It's a very attractive industry to get into. So what are the entry requirements? As I said, there's a number of different routes. Firstly, the foundation degree. Those are normally people who leave after they finish their A-levels and want to take on a cadetship. And they need a minimum of 48 UCAS points and maths in, GCSEs in maths, English, and a science. There is quite a bit of maths in both these career pathways, and particularly the engineering side. So we do look for a good quality of maths at your A-level and GCSE levels. The other way is to join after your sort of GCSE, so you will follow the HND, the Higher National Diploma route. And again, you should be leaving school with good maths, a science, and an English. And if you're following the engineering route, the science we're looking for is something along the lines of a physics or engineering or something like that. Okay, that will stand you in good stead. So, like I said, there are 2 points of entry after A-levels, after GCSEs, depending on what point you want to start on your career path. So that's the Merchant Navy, and that's very brief overview of how you get into it. But what we do as Warsash Maritime School? Well, we're based in Southampton, and we have a dedicated cadet facility, and we're right in the heart of the city. Those of you who may not know Southampton, we're one of the UK's leading ports. We are the UK's #1 port for the import and export of cars, UK's largest oil refinery, busiest turnaround port for cruise ships in Europe, UK's second container terminal, port, and lots of other goods come in out of Southampton. So we are based in one of the hubs, should we say, of UK's trade and transport. The fun of this course is that, yes, I've mentioned you need your maths and some academic, but a lot of the activities you will learn are based around your career. So there's a lot of practical work. And as you can see, these 2 cadets of ours are learning to use Admiralty charts. So they're learning how to use a paper chart to plan journeys and routes from A to B that they would do when they're at sea. Similarly, this is one of our electronic engineers, and he's talking to cadets about the use of electronics and safe handling of electronics and electrics at sea. We have a dedicated workshop, and it's the best way to learn your job is to have hands-on experience. So we have we have our own dedicated workshop, and you're taught to strip down an engine, find faults, and put it back together again. So if you like hands-on work, this is a great course to get into. We have a brand new what we call a simulation center. And this is a room where you're learning how to use electronic navigation systems. So I showed you the paper charts just now. This is learning electronic navigation. And as you join the industry, you will see a lot of ships now are heavily reliant on electronic and computer technology to help and assist them in the safe passage and management of their ships. You will get a chance to go on one of our simulators. This is a bridge simulator that are designed to give you the real feel of what it's like to be sailing and working at sea. The equipment you see there is exactly like you would see on a ship. And I can assure you, when you're in there and we start making the waves move, you will really think you are on a ship. And as you can see, the cadets really enjoy getting into there because that is the real world learning experience. And again, this is a similar picture of the cadets. Looks like they're navigating, I think, into Hong Kong Harbour. If not, one of my colleagues will confirm that to me. And we have, similarly for engineers, they get to use simulation technology as well. So this is a slightly scaled down version of engine that you would find on a ship, but all the technology on there is the same. I only say that because if we had a real life ship's engine, it will take up pretty much the whole of our building because they are that large. I talked earlier about responsibilities of firefighting. We have our own safety training school, and you'll go through a firefighting training course led by experienced staff. And these are some of our cadets learning how to put out fires as they would be at sea. Similarly, we teach you how to be safe at sea and use life-saving equipment. And again, these are some of our cadets in a pool to start with to get in and out of life equipment. And we have our own pier where we can launch boats and get you out on the water and do various activities and safety training while you're on the water. We have fun too. Every year we have a charity event. These are some of our cadets who enjoy spending 24 hours in a life raft to raise money for good causes. I would say coming to the industry, it is a fun industry and you make friends from a fairly early stage. And many of these people will probably be lifelong friends as they go through their careers. Many of our staff, the vast majority of them, are captains and chief engineers in their own rights. We're called master mariners. And this is one of our what we call part-time lecturers. He's actually a captain on one of the Isle of Wight ferries. And he enjoys, at the start of the course, taking some of our new cadets onto the bridge of his vessel across the Isle of Wight and giving them an early taste of what it's like to be master of their own vessel. As you can see, everyone enjoys that trip. So that's what we do. As I said, our job is to take you on that journey. Take you on a journey from day one, teach you all the skills and knowledge you need to get you to the first rung on the ladder of being a professional seafarer. And then, if you wanted to come back at a future date to become ultimately a captain or chief engineer, like I said, we'll support you on that journey all the way through. I talked earlier about you needing to have a sponsorship from various shipping companies. And here's just a few of companies who regularly recruit cadets. And I should have mentioned earlier, we have 2 intakes a year in September and January. So there are a number of pathways to start. And again, here's a number of other companies. So that was a really fast sort of talk through the merchant navy and how you get into it. If you find something there really exciting, interesting, there are a number of things you can do. First of all, you can go to our website, where there's a lot more information about careers and entry. We run a number of open days that you can come along to at any time. Our next virtual one is on Thursday, 29th of October. And as I said, if you go to our website, you'll see all the open days are available in the future. And we hope once we get out of the current sort of COVID situation, we'll be able to open up your facilities. You come and visit us. If you have any questions you want to ask me, then I'm happy to answer any questions. Please email me at that email there, wsmse.admin@solent.ac.uk, and I'll be happy to answer emails or have a chat with you and start you on that journey. So I think that's all I have to say. I don't know if anyone has any questions they'd like to ask me.
Thank you. That was really great. I tell you what, you have maybe converted me to join in the Merchant Navy.
You're very welcome to join.
We do have a few questions actually.
Okay.
So one of them, I think you kind of covered just in your last couple of slides. So it was obviously you mentioned you need to get sponsored by a shipping company in order to join a course. Is that simply by clicking on one of those links, going onto the web page and filling in an application form, or is there more to that application process?
No. Broadly speaking, you can contact any of those companies, and as I said, all those companies are listed on our website. Contact all those companies, and you can apply online to them. And they're all very happy to speak to people and discuss opportunities into various parts of the industry and different types of ships. Mm-hmm. So yes, and you don't have to apply just to one. You can speak to all those companies or a number of them. Because ultimately you've got to find the sector of industry that's most important to you and the one that excites you. So yeah, absolutely, speak to them first.
Perfect, thank you. We have another one here actually, someone saying that they're not great at maths. Do they absolutely need that to pursue a career in the Merchant Navy, or are there any alternatives? Obviously you had quite a big focus on maths when you spoke about the qualifications.
Okay, and well, there's no easy answer, I'm afraid. Yes, you do need maths, particularly if you want to be an engineer. There is an awful lot of maths in engineering. On the deck side, if you are weak on maths, then I would suggest you follow the HND route, because what happens is we will give you that support for maths, and because not everyone's at maths. I have to admit, I was never particularly good at maths at school. But you get a way around it. We have excellent maths teachers who will help you. And what we will do is actually we'll teach you the maths that's applicable to the job you want to do. So we won't reteach you GCSE maths. It'll be around stuff you need for chart work and everything else. So please don't let that be a barrier. And don't worry you. We can get over that.
Perfect. It's good to know. Someone else has asked if you provide accommodation on site at Warsash.
Yes. So obviously, if you haven't noticed, we're part of Solent University, and we have all our student accommodation. We have a number of student halls. Most of the halls are within 10 minutes walk of the premises that we showed you where we do our teaching. So again, if you click to the website, there'll be a big section on accommodation and the types of accommodation and costs. So absolutely, there's plenty of good accommodation there.
Perfect. Someone else has inquired, you mentioned obviously the different types of ships and vessels that you can work on.
Yes.
Do you get to choose yourself, or are you placed there? How does that work?
A bit of both, really. If you speak to one of the sponsoring companies, because there are two different types of companies. Obviously, if you go to direct a company like Carnival or Princess, then clearly you are going to be working on a cruise ship. Mm-hmm. There are a number of other companies who are what we call management companies, who represent lots of different companies in the industry. So if you wanted to, let's say, work on a container ship, then when you speak to one of those companies, you can say your preference is a container ship. And if they've got opportunities, then hopefully they'll push you in that direction. So there's a bit of both. You can choose, but again, it depends on the amount of spaces available. What I would say, if for instance you wanted to, for my example, work on a container ship and there were no opportunities, still take the cadetship and go on a different ship, because you're still learning. the same skills, and you can transfer into the container sector at a later date.
Yep. Perfect. Thank you so much. Someone
okay.
else has asked, how long might they be at sea for on one of these various vessels?
Are you right? Are you talking after you've graduated? I'm assuming you're talking once you've finished.
I'm just looking here. I think this is during the course when you mentioned that there'd be placements at sea.
Okay. Well, you have to do roughly a year at sea. Okay, in total. So in phase 2, you might go to sea for let's say 3 or 4 months, and then at phase 4, you might then do a total of about maybe 8 months, 9 months, but you would probably only do 4 months at sea before you get leave, and then go back and do some more time at sea. So it depends on the company, but let's say any stint, the longest stint you'll be at sea is about 4 months, 5 months, something like that.
Perfect. So it helps to not be seasick.
I think, yes, absolutely.
The final question, actually, I think a really good one. Someone's asked, why are you in this role? Why do you personally love it?
I came into the industry by accident. I actually worked for P&O Cruises a long time ago, and I've also worked in the container industry. Why do I love it? Because I love to see the world. I've traveled all over the place. Every day is different. I love meeting new people, and I've got lifelong friends in industry. It's an industry, once you get into it, it gets in your blood and you can't get out of it. It's such fun. Every day's a challenge. And yeah, I'm passionate about it, so I can't speak more highly. So if you're on a different job and not necessarily want to work behind a desk all day, then this is the industry for you. And what I would add also, this is a career for life. So if you wanted to join and go to sea, that doesn't mean you have to be to sea for 40 years. Many people come in and they might go to sea for 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, whatever they decide. And then after that time, I go, actually, do you know what? I've done my time. I'd like to go and work on land. There is a lot of jobs on land, still in the maritime sector. So you can work in the industry for the whole career. But as I said, it doesn't need to be at sea. So there's flexibility there.
Perfect. Well, it really does sound amazing. And hopefully some of the people watching will get to work with you one day.
And I look forward to seeing them at our college. And like I said, I'm always here if they want to ask questions. And if I can help, please ask.